not on camera, is it? No, good. So there we go. Ooh, those awful orcs. Yes, they'll never know. So yes, Wilson portrays exactly the critique of somebody who thinks that evil should be presented in Manichaean terms. And hence makes the point that maybe it doesn't work for him. Actually, I think it still works entirely. However, it's not what he expects of evil, but that's because he has a certain view of how evil is going to portray itself. It's not the good guys and the bad guys. And this will fit in with what I'm going to say is a critique of the film, by the way. Because in the Lord of the Rings film, when the ring is destroyed, evil is destroyed. But that's not how it is in the book. In the book, when the ring is destroyed, evil carries on. Because Saruman is still around, and he scours the Shire. So evil persists beyond the incarnation of evil in the form of the ring, right? And it has worked its ill on the whole cosmos. So evil was a form of, it's a concentrated way of gaining power over nature, but it isn't evil itself. Even the ring is not evil, because it's a created thing. It's an implement for exercising human power, or not just human power. All of Middle-earth wants this. The hobbits, the elves, the men, the dwarves, etc. They're all drawn to it. Yes?
Maybe this is a personal feeling, but I do feel like when she's talking about just being able to say boo to them or puffing them away, I actually think that it was much more scary to have evil as something that you can't really see and not in a bodily form. That to me seems something you can't just puff away, because if it was something that you could defeat and kill.
But think of the Battle of Pelennor. You're right, but think of the Battle of Pelennor Fields. The film presents it. It probably goes on for 20 minutes as this grand battle, and it's terrific, right? You got the armies and riding. You know, the cavalry comes in over the charge of the hill. The light comes up, and you see the city of Gondor being besieged by the forces of Mordor. Far greater number than the cavalry that is coming down the hill, and then you hear the sound of the trumpets, and you see them charging, and this is a death march. Like, you're charging at a larger force, and so the bravery is conspicuous then. So it's heart-stirring stuff. But if you read the battle in The Lord of the Rings, like in the book here, it's barely portrayed at all. There's not a lot of battle scenes. It's not the Iliad. There are not swords going through helmets and arms being chopped off and arrows getting shot through. They're just not there. He doesn't even bother with it. So again, there's no real clash of good and evil. Evil being an incarnated thing, good being this physical thing. Now, the filmmaker doesn't have that at his disposal. He has to give you pictures. But that's why it's better presented in a book, his view of evil. And really his commentary even on physical battles then, like World War I, which he was involved in, and World War II, which is the backdrop. He thinks there needs to be a physical battle, but that's not where the real battle is. It's a spiritual battle, and you can't see the full presence of evil because evil is not a thing. It's not the other guy. The other guy's not evil. You call him evil because he's going to deprive you of good. But his being is not evil. That person is as much a image bearer of God as you are. In fact, he might be duped into or conscripted or enlisted or whatever into battle, and he didn't want to do it. He left his family behind. Right? So there's a sense of humanity even in the portrait here. Even of the orcs, he doesn't cast them as wholly evil in the way he deals with the battle between good and evil. But note that good is manifested in very concrete terms, and evil seems to be shadowy, non-existent. But shadow is the word that's used over and over again. The land of Mordor where the shadows are. Right? One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. It's a shadowy, so the place of evil is, like Augustine says, a place of Non-existence. It's the privation of good. And note that it's cast out. How does it work itself? Through the smoke that darkens the sky and casts everything into pitch darkness. The 9 riders, how are they portrayed? They're called wraiths, ring wraiths. The word wraith is from an Anglo-Saxon word. Tom Shippey mentions this. That is also connected with the English word for writhe and wreath. So a wreath is often a twisted thing. Like, you know, the wreath that you put on your door, you twist the... But also smoke. And to writhe in pain is to twist. And so Tolkien is intensely aware of all these things and plays on it regularly. Here's a twisted reality. And these men, who were once men, just as we are, says Aragorn, are now only in the shadow world. He didn't say the spiritual world, the shadow. They have an existence, which Frodo, he can only see them when he puts on the ring. What does the ring do to him? It makes his finger disappear. It makes him disappear fully, but the more he wears it, the more his ring finger, he looks at it and it's a little bit translucent. It's being deprived of its good. It's taking, what's it giving him in exchange? Longevity. The more you put it on, the longer you live. You gain power over your own nature, right? You can extend its life. But what does Frodo say about, or Bilbo say about it? Because he is now 11-1. He feels like butter spread over too much bread. His life has been extended, but he feels like he feels shallow and hollow and weary, but he doesn't look like he's aged a day. So it has a privation effect. It extends one thing that we can see, but by depriving it of something else. So he's used power rather than virtue. And it has the effect, the more you wear it, the more it brings you under the influence of shadow. Eventually, if you keep it on, you won't come out of it. So it seems to give you power, but it deprives you of everything good. And there's the temptation. It's a Faustian bargain. Use the ring, gain power, and lose your soul. And everybody wants it. And so there's the temptation. The temptation of evil is to think of it as offering a greater reality, the thing that you most want, denying the goodness of what you already possess. And all of the figures of good are aligned together to resist this and to destroy the power of the ring, to send it back where it was made, not to use it. Because he says you can't use it. It's not possible to wield the ring. It will wield you. The only thing you can do is avoid it and to unmake it. Even the ring, you can't destroy it. It has to be unmade. It's the phrasing in Tolkien is very careful. Comments or questions at this point? Oops. But note that when we often, in English, the phrase "we writhe in pain," it's still maintained. It's hard for a non-native English speaker to pick up some of the complexities of the English language. Like, why do we writhe in pain? Why that phrase of all things? We can think of writhing. We think of contorting, like even your face. You can see some, and actually, if you're in pain, you do twist on yourself a little bit, like you hunch over and so forth. But it also is connected with bent, and think of how Lewis uses the word bent in relation to the evil beings of his world. They're both pointing to the same. They're both Augustinians, by the way, in their portrait. Except Tolkien is more faithful to Augustine. Lewis is focusing more on the physical side of things. And so it seems like the evil has more of an entity, because that's how we experience it, right? There are evil people. They're plotting an evil thing. Tolkien is more metaphysical. and consistent in his portrait. Yes?
Yeah, I guess kind of looking at the movie compared to the book and how it's depicted, would Aragorn's sword be the opposite of the ring in terms of a physical instrument that embodies what it was, I guess, meant for?
Well, I'm going to talk about the varieties of implements. The sword of Narsil is one, which is reforged. What is the sword? What does that represent? It's the sword that was broken. And it once cut off the finger of Sauron, but then he stood on it and shattered it, and now it's been reforged. What is the reforged sword? Well, we know it's a reforged sword. Yeah, but does it symbolize something besides that? Well, in Christian thought, a sword does represent something. It's the word of God. Right? It's a sort of, no? That's what we think of the sword that comes out of Jesus' mouth, the two-edged sword, etc. To an audience without any literary or biblical background, a sword's a sword. He reforges a sword. Okay, there's nothing more to it. I don't think that's a very deep way of, I do think there's something at work there. But it's not opposite of the ring. It's another implement. And there's nothing wrong with implements per se. Tolkien is not against implements, but you have to have the wisdom to use the implements rightly. Another illustration, I'll talk about this more at the time. There's a few other. There's the Mirror of Galadriel. There is the what are those called? No, I wasn't. Well, yes, but the Palantir, the Seeing Stones. But I was also just thinking of the Phial of Galadriel, in which the star is kept. It's the light of the star. These are all technical implements. So are the elven cloaks. All these are means of technology that are there to resist, to help the company resist the One Ring of power. And they're not portrayed as having anything but goodness in them. But you have to be wise enough to use them. So one of the ways in which evil is brought about to the company, a terrible blow, is when one of the hobbits picks up one of the Seeing Stones, the Palantir that gets thrown down, and looks into it. And he's not able to handle it, right? And Sauron's on the other side, sees him and basically controls him and twists him and tries to break him, to tell him. And he doesn't. He's able to resist that somehow. But then Aragorn does pick it up because he is the heir of Gondor. And he doesn't want to reveal himself, but he is able to. He has the character, the virtue to wield this as the rightful heir of Gondor. This is his legacy. It's his property. He has the virtue, not just the physical strength, he has the virtue to use it. And he does when the time comes. He looks into it and speaks to Sauron. I'm coming for you. That's enough to give him a message that scares him, interestingly, and pushes him to empty the land of Mordor of all of his troops to come after him, which is what he wants, because Frodo is coming in behind enemy lines to destroy. That's the aim. Let's bring him out. So again, a lot can be said about, and I will talk about this. This is the portrait of evil. What's the portrait of good? I'll spend some time looking at the portrait of good. But I need to look at evil. I'm going to spend this class and the next one because it's such a substantial part of the narrative. But this is absolutely essential, that we understand evil as a non-existent thing. And hence, all the discussion of shadows. What is a shadow? It's nothing. A shadow isn't really anything. It's something that obstructs the light, so you see it. But it's not there. The thing that casts the shadow is there. Right? The shadow is just, you know what I'm talking about. Yes?
But Dr. Wilson, can't the argument of like, okay, well, if the good was strong enough, then why does it need to, like, how was evil even created if the good was originally strong enough? I don't know how this works.
Because in Scripture, because God created all the beings, the angels and men, to have free will and to be able to choose good for its own sake, right? And in Tolkien, likewise, the creatures of Middle Earth have the power of a will. And so with that will, they can use it or they don't lose it. They're implicated in the fall. So when Melkor sings discord into the cosmos, it's ruined. It just keeps on spilling out. It gets worse and worse, and that's the dark side of the Lord of the Rings, is the sense of Gandalf that evil will one day win. Aragorn, evil will one day win, but not this day. Right? This day will stand and fight, right? But and there's a sense of, even though they think they're going to lose somehow, right? But they don't have any sense of eschatology that one day evil will be vanquished by the good. That's not even in the ideas of the creatures here. So Tolkien doesn't do what Lewis does and throw Father Christmas in there. There's no sense. No, it's just a doom. It's doom, and yet evil can be resisted because the gospel's not yet come, right? And the idea of redemption in that form. But there are little signs of it, mythological signs of it. And I talked about the prophet, priest, and king in the Lord of the Rings, and the prophet being Gandalf, the priest being Frodo, bearing our sin all the way up to Golgotha, or whatever he calls it. It's not Golgotha, that's Christ, but carrying the burden and being overcome by evil in the end. And the king being Aragorn, those figures that seem Christian, and they are, but they're not fully Christian. They're certainly not allegories. But they're welded into the story for sure. Did you have a question, or did you? No.
No. So
There.
I'm so sorry.
Don't
So
be
it's
sorry.
like good can triumph free will, but free will can still exist. Like good will always triumph.
Free will no longer exists fully. This is the problem.
Okay.
Because it's corrupted. After the fall, everybody's will, it exists. So theologically, it exists in the Garden of Eden. Everyone has perfect good free will. Everyone being Adam and Eve. They can choose to do this. Yeah, that's everyone. And the whole of the human race with them. They can choose the good or they can choose to do evil. When they make their fatal choice, we are all implicated in that act. The whole of the human race. And with it, all of nature falls with them. Because man is born of clay, and the earth also corrupted in the process. So sin is part of that. So there's no entirely free will anymore. It's not free in the sense that it's not under the influence of sin. It's corrupted. That's why it needs to be redeemed from without. But we still have free will in a limited sense, just not the sense of its original purpose. Hence the need, though, of conversion. And hence the need of, in terms of knowledge, to recover what's lost. Don't try and invent anything new, per se. That's not the aim of education. It's to restore that. And then through obedience, this is what Milton makes clear in Paradise Lost, but it's not here, through obedience, becoming more and more godlike. So I've talked about this shadowy, non-existent sense of evil as the privation of good. This alone, I think, is worth the price of admission. It's when I say revolutionary, this is Christian theology. This is the orthodox view of evil. Have you ever heard of it in churches? No. And in pop culture, it's all Manichaean. In the movie, it's all Manichaean. It diminishes goodness and it exalts evil. It presents the Marvel superheroes. How do they deal with the problem? Well, they make the heroes a little bit bad. You know, and some of them are really towing the line, like the Dark Knight. He uses bad means to bring about good, but he's totally corrupted in that sense. What's the difference between him and the Joker? The Joker says there's no difference. He said, oh yes there is, and I'm going to fight you, whatever. And I think, actually there isn't. There's no difference. It's a matter of degree. What won't you do? Very good question. Well, in the Manichaean world of Marvel superheroes, there is no difference, effectively. Yes?
I know you had a larger critique of the Rings of Power, but
Don't go that way.
There's one specific line.
Oh, okay.
The specific line that evil, it rests. I don't remember the rest of it. Is that it doesn't disappear, but it just rests. Is that? Do you think that Tolkien? What do you think Tolkien would have said of that line?
Never.
Never.
No. I don't know. I don't remember that line. They have a odd view, which is effectively, I recall it. I did a review of the series, which I regretted starting on. But anyway, in which they talk about the tree. What are they called? The elven trees. And it gets hit by a form of the Balrog, and it goes down, and it comes up with this sort of yin and yang view of good and evil as two sides working together, and you need good and you need evil, and he's just totally, the creators are totally reframing Christian theology in accordance with the Manichaean dualism of the Far East. Yin and the yang of the good and evil, right? You need a little bit of both. I think, no, that's not right at all. It's fundamentally twisted. It's a serious twist on Tolkien's view. It's not even in the same league. It's a perversion of everything good in Tolkien. Ask me what I really think about it. And then you get boss girl Galadriel, right? Anyway, who's the representation of, here's the woman and femininity acting like toxic masculinity. Okay.
But I think it makes sense to me, because even when you portray the Dark Knight, it's even in his name, the Dark Knight.
He is, as I said of Galadriel in my review, it's Byronic.
Yeah.
He's the Byronic hero, right? In which the good guy is a bad guy.
Yes. And I would say, like, even for myself,
Western culture loves bad guys, by the way.
yes. I
Yeah.
remember watching Lord of the Rings and then reading it later
Yeah.
when I was a child, and for whatever reason, the stark contrast between Sauron and like evil being portrayed as like this ominous, intangible force, like that didn't make much sense to me as a child.
No, it doesn't.
It would confuse me for a very long time.
It would have to, because again, it goes against everything else here being presented.
Right.
Right.
And then I got older, and I would say that when my relationship with God really took form, it made more sense to me.
Huh.
Then it became almost more concrete to me than the other.
That's good. I like to hear that.
That's interesting how go on.
Because again, the way that a child looks at it is, again, well, I look back at the instances of my childhood, the ones that are memorable are the bad ones. They really stand out. Like I remember certain terrible experiences. Wordsworth talks about it in his work. The recollections of early childhood, there are the spots when you remember it's the death of someone, a cat, a father, whatever, and you remember that vividly. The rest of the days pass much the same. You don't remember them. So evil then seems stronger and more influential. The Romantics call it the sublime. And they associate with God, furthermore, to make it even more problematic. The sublime